Hi folks, my name is Zuko, and today I'm going to talk about why this update for Mixed Universe took 7 months instead of 2. Whew. For those who are new here, Mixed Universe is a musical sandbox game where you play as a mix-a-naut, adding beautiful musical vibes to the world. Everything in the game is editable, real-time. All the music that you hear, all the sounds that you hear is all samples that are playing based on the nodes real-time in-game. I've been working on it for 6 years, and it's been in early access on Steam for a year now. And this update in particular is one of the first updates that kind of feels more like a game, so that's why I'm calling it the core gameplay update. This video is going to be more about like a month-to-month focus, where I'm going to go over like why certain things took longer certain months and like what happened. There is a lot to show, and that's why this video is a little bit longer than usual, and I have a lot of different videos that I'll pepper in along the way, but I did put a demo mix together that I'll show at the very end. So when you see all the different updates and stuff, you can kind of see it, almost everything kind of come together into a really cool mix. And so without further ado, let's just get going. So now we go back to February, and my naive self said that I could get tutorials in the game by the end of March. I also was not working on the tutorials at the time. I just told myself I could do that. And the big thing that I was working on at that moment was trying to gain a little bit more attention on social media. I think part of me really wanted to see what the pain points were in the game, so I was forcing myself to play it a lot. I also wanted to take a break a little bit, and I was still coming off of that break from January when I actually did release the update. TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts all grew over a short period of time quite a bit. This was really cool, but it was something that I really hadn't planned for, so I was trying to do my best to try and understand it. I was showing people what was fun about it, and then the one huge revelation that I had was that throughout all of this, I realized that I was asking the player to be both good at making music and also making it look cool. Both art and music are tough to understand, and it's one of those things that I don't even know if I truly understand it. I just like having fun with it. So what can I do to lean more into the musical aspect of things and lean less into the art side of things, I think is kind of the big takeaway that I'm going to be going with moving forward. I haven't solved that, but it's something that I really saw, and it helped motivate my intro tutorial experience that I wanted to start working on. So by the end of the month, I had started the tutorial system, and I had looked at my older system and realized that I needed to change everything because the older system was just not future-proof. I was doing everything hard-coded, and it was not going to last a long time. If I was gonna update nodes, if I was gonna add things to the game, I wanted the tutorial system to come along with it. And I felt like the only way to go forward was to build a modular system from scratch that could do this. March started off on track. I was telling myself that I could get the tutorial systems and the tutorials done by the end of the month. I thought that was actually a feasible goal. And I was midway through about like the first implementations of the node setup at the start of the month, so I felt pretty good. As I was moving forward, I was blocking in the intro tutorial, which would be the first thing the player experiences when playing the game. I wanted to load into a mix, show them what a mix was, and actually have them modify the mix right away without even going to a blank slate or whatever. This was one of the big feedback items of the game, and I just wanted to address it as good as I could with the systems that I had. As I was blocking it in, I got about 40 or 50 dialogue lines in and realized that it really sucks that I can't hear what the dialogue line is saying. The whole game is about music. The whole game is about audio. So why can't I hear the voices? Don't listen to the voices. So I also saw that a lot of voice technologies were coming online where people were able to generate really, really good voices on the fly, and one of the ones that really caught my eye was Resemble AI. So their API, I was able to integrate directly in Unreal. And within a few days, I was able to get something where I was typing the dialogue line, and then I would generate what the dialogue says on the fly into an audio file in the editor and ready to go.
As a solo dev, this changes the game. Literally. As a solo dev, this changes the game. Literally.
And as the intro tutorial grew, another thing that kind of happened was the system that I had kind of sucked to work with. Like, it went from being hard-coded to modular, but the modular elements were so hard to kind of understand. It looked like an alien language when it was all laid out, and future me needs to understand this. So I had to start figuring out some sort of way to move forward without having to reteach myself how to use the system every single time I open it up. I knew I wasn't gonna hit a deadline of getting the tutorials done by the end of the month. And I also felt like I didn't wanna do them anymore because it was too hard to use. And then the big kicker is literally at the end of the month, TikTok exploded. I had stopped posting videos at this point, so I don't know what the deal is. TikTok's like, hey, you wanna come back for a little bit? Here's some views for ya. Have fun. 2 million views within a week. That's cool. There's no way I know how to replicate that. It definitely overwhelmed me at the end of the month because I was like trying to focus on when I was getting these tutorials done, and then bam, and I had no tutorials. So coming into April, I started feeling a little bit of fatigue making the tutorials at this point. Like I knew they were hard to make, I didn't know exactly how to fix it, and I was starting to feel myself slowing down. And whenever this happens, I hit a wall and I divert, and then eventually I'll come back and circle around to the wall, and it'll be easier to take down, or it just won't be there anymore. It's one of those things that I find myself doing a lot in the process of working on something on my own, because I kind of have to always stay excited in order to make progress. If I'm not excited, I'm not moving as fast, I'm not being as efficient. So my way of doing that is divert, come back. So what I did is I focused on something that's been in my head for a while, and I wanted to get it out a little bit, just start thinking about it, was activator rings. Activator rings, the idea is you fly through them and they'll activate the nodes they're connected to. They're really cool, they come with a lot of technical challenges, but this was something that was really starting to kind of like open my mind up a little bit. I was like, whoa, this is feeling almost like a game. So by the time I did this, I was 2 weeks into the month, and I still felt the fatigue from tutorials and decided, okay, I think the way to fix it is to make a custom graph. And I decided for the last 2 weeks to build a custom node editor using editor utility widgets. I want to do a whole other video on this in the future and actually release it as a plugin, but at the end of the month, I had an entire node interface for this, and it was starting to feel pretty cool, and it was a lot easier to use. So I diverted my attention over to a few other things that I thought might be neat to add to the game. Some quick stuff like being able to draw nodes. Instead of clicking a bunch, you can now just like click and drag, and nodes will draw as you're clicking and dragging. And then I also kind of fixed the issue where sometimes if you clicked and drag on voxels or land masses, it would just go through them. A lot of bug fixes kind of came through in the first week or so of May, but I still felt the fatigue. I still didn't want to work on tutorials. So I looked forward. I saw the exploration mode was kind of low on the node map, and I wanted to be able to eventually in the future land on mixes, walk around, and just see them from a whole new perspective. And really, what kind of drove me to start working on that was I have an intro to the game that would be a tutorial, but then I could also bring the player back to some sort of like headquarters if the player could walk around. So I went ahead and spent the last 2 weeks of May on converting the actor that I had that was the character into an actual player character that came along with like gravity, movement, collision, all that stuff, adding collision to all the different elements in the world, which has its own performance issues, things that take just a lot of time just to whittle through a lot of the little stuff. And eventually by the end of May, I had a walking and moving character, which was really cool. It started to really bring back a lot of excitement that I was feeling like I was losing just constantly staring at tutorials. But here we are at the end of May, and I still don't have tutorials. So it was now summer, and it felt like it was the perfect time to add some sort of summer vibe to Mixed Universe, because I was telling myself, oh, by the end of June, I would have the tutorials done. So I spent the first like few days in June adding a beach environment to it, adding some water, real-time reflections. There's a checkbox you can turn on and off if you have the GPU power in order to see the mixes in a really cool new way. Also, it lessens the purple and blue fatigue because a lot of the default mix visuals is purples, blues, pinks, and just in general when playing, I felt like there was a lot of fatigue with that too, and as a player it'd be nice to have something that flips it around. So now there's kind of more of a neutral, kind of what you'd expect with a little bit of grass that's green environment that helps make it look a little bit more kind of like every other game out there. So I still felt the fatigue. I didn't quite have the drive to do tutorials yet, even though I was telling myself I could get it done by the end of the month. And I kept hitting this one bug that is a core engine bug of Unreal 5.3 where audio just stops playing in certain ways. Some audio files just have artifacts in them, and it was an audio caching issue that Unreal 5.4 fixed. And 5.4 had just released like a month before or somewhere around that time, And I was telling myself that, okay, I can just get the update out and then I'll switch over and we'll do this for quite a while. But I kept hitting this bug. I felt the fatigue more, and I took the moment and I said, okay, well, I've already pushed it so far. Might as well. Let's go to 5.4. I had to upgrade the voxel plugin to the latest version of its early access version, which I have my own changes already that I needed to bring over to the new stuff, which that ended up taking about a week and a half because it's a lot of stuff to weed through. It's code I'm very much unfamiliar with, so I had to like learn through like what works, what doesn't. The good thing about it is I did get that done. It was pretty close to the end of June, and then I spent quite a bit of time at the end of June on optimization because I noticed with the voxels, if you had a lot of them and switch layers, it would spike RAM up to about 8 to 12 gigs, which is just not acceptable. Now it can handle way bigger mixes, lots more nodes, and not have the RAM spike up to 8 gigs. But here we are at the end of June and still no tutorials. Finally, now is the time. If I was going to get tutorials ever, in-game interactive tutorials, now is the time. It's July, and I realize that there is a deadline coming up, pretty hard deadline in the middle of August that I need to hit to have really good opportunity with visibility for Mixed Universe. I can't quite talk about it just yet, but it's soon. It's very soon. This was a realization that I think I can get it done by the end of July. And I've said this however many times before, and I've always tangented to something else. But the good thing is I looped back. So this whole loop back process, even though it took 2 months to get there, I looped back and the wall was down. As I was doing one of the later tutorials, which is the layer switching tutorial, I decided that I didn't like the layer switching. So this was a late addition. I ended up revamping the entire layer switching panel to be a whole button on the UI now, a separate UI, and up to 32 layers. So it's pretty robust. You can even name the layers and select the different nodes in each layer. It's a lot more robust than it was before, and ultimately a really good change. Thankfully, it was something I could do within like a few days instead of taking weeks. It was a risk, but I ended up doing it. And then the last thing that kind of came along was gamepad support. I had to test all of the interactive tutorial experience, the hub, everything, going back to the hub and just locking UIs and all that stuff with the gamepad. It all came together, and by the end of July, I finally had tutorials. I finally had tutorials. But I'm not done yet. And I have a deadline for the middle of August where I also need a demo done. So I knew that I needed to focus on a demo now, but I did have a working build. I did have tutorials. So I could release an update now and then also release an update again during the demo. The only thing that was pressuring me was the fact that I haven't updated in 7 months at this point. And I could already feel the patience waning a little bit. People in the Discord were being pretty quiet. And also that I had gotten a really wacky community response of somebody calling the game a scam because presumably I haven't updated in a long time. I assure you that Mixed Universe is not a scam. It is an absolute passion project of mine that I have been working on forever and I continue to work on, and for whatever reason, I'm not stopping. I just wanted to make that completely clear. So now I'm focusing on the demo, and the demo actually came along really quick. I got the logic in mostly because of the fact that all of the tutorial stuff that had led up to this point, locking UIs, locking different content, all that stuff could be applied to the demo. And the demo for Mixed Universe is pretty simple. It's a limited demo where you have a limited region size. Some nodes are locked, some effects are locked, sounds are locked, and when you save a mix and load it back up, you can't edit it. And I think that's gonna work pretty well for the demo. I don't think people are gonna balk at that too much, and it gives you a nice taste of the game and some freedom to actually make whatever you want. Load it up later if you do decide to buy the game. For the last few days, I've been working on the showcase mix, this video, and it's finally all come together. I love the way that it turned out, and I'm excited to show you. I'm gonna wrap up and just say, thank you for getting this far, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy, and I really do appreciate everybody who has played the game, who has purchased the game, and who has given feedback. All that stuff really means a lot to me, and I really am so happy that you continue to follow me during this journey because it's truly an awesome project to me, and I am gonna continue working on it. So I'll do my best to try and not make this long of an interval between updates, especially since we're a year in now. I think I can start doing much faster paced updates. So yeah, I hope you enjoy.